Hello, everybody. Meteorologist Brian Good here. Welcome to Storm Talk. We've had a lot of snow talk lately, but now it's time to talk about some storm talk because we've got a very interesting pattern ahead for us as we head down the road. Good evening. It's now on this Tuesday evening, closing down the 9 o'clock hour. I've been going over some of the recent data. We've got a couple more model runs coming in here in the next hour, so I'll try to fine-tune that for the 11 o'clock shows tonight if there's anything significant in the 7-day. As always, I try to adjust the 7-day on every show. If I see something significant, the 7-day is meant to be a trend of the future, not so much an exact forecast for each and every single day. That's what they were intended to do, and that's what we're going to do with them. So anyway, we're going to break it down first off what's happening now, and I'll get you right into the setup. And I've got some nerdy maps, best way I can explain it, technical discussion more about how the atmosphere is looking for this weekend. So I apologize in advance now if you're not huge weather fans or weather savvy. You may not be too excited about the end part of the video here, but I want to cover a lot. Let's get right to it here. We'll start you off with what's happening now. And the good news is not a lot is really happening at the moment. We've got some clouds trying to pass on by here in northern Kentucky, heading on out to areas of East Kentucky, and that trend will continue as we head into the overnight. Clear skies, though, will eventually develop, and it's going to get cold tonight, certainly. Around the country, got a mess here in the Northeast. Boston got slammed today with more than half a foot of snow. These snow showers that came through this morning are now heading into areas of the East Coast to help them out with a little bit of a fluffy additive for snowfall there. But the rest of the country actually fairly quiet. We'll be looking out to the West Coast here. Doesn't look like much now, but there is a lot of energy trying to build in and head into areas of the Northwest. Now, what's likely to happen is an area of energy is going to keep on tightening up here around the jet stream, which would be right in this location in the Northwest, in the Northern Rockies. As the jet tightens, it's going to force energy to dive actually backwards, in a sense, into areas of the Los Angeles Basin in Southern California as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. As that happens, a low pressure will then develop. It'll roll on out into areas of Texas, really crank up in Texas into areas of Arkansas and track right over Louisville and head off to the north and east. Now, if you're along or south of that track in this zone here, it's a warm side. It's rain, it's thunderstorms, blah, 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 blah. If you're on the northwest side, it's colder, ice, and snow can be found. So far, on all the data runs, this track right across the Louisville area and along the Ohio River has held in many of the models so far. So it looks pretty likely this is going to be a rain scenario, a heavy rain scenario at that. So here's the latest thinking. I drew this map yesterday. I really don't see a lot of change needing to make to it here. I think that track along the Ohio River will hold. This means a heavy rain band right across most of our 29 counties. Got to watch a severe threat across the southern tier. I'll explain why in a minute, why we may have to push that a little more to the north and west. Snow-wise, the only change you need to make there is I think the rain band probably needs to be a little more expansive in areas of St. Louis the way it's looking now. They may be too close to the low to stay snowy, and then take the snow band and extend that out a little more like that. That's the way it's looking anyway in the latest data trends there. But let's get right to what's happening for us. Now, this map is what we call a PWatt. And the best way we can explain a PWatt, it's an acronym, but it's precipitable water is basically what we're talking about. How much rain could potentially fall in a 1 hour's time. And when we see PWatts, this yellow area is showing 2 inches. This means it potentially could rain 2 inches of rain in just 1 hour. That's a tremendous amount of water to see funneling right into Kentucky in a time of the year where it's very hard to get values that high. In fact, we get PWatts approaching 2 inches. That would likely be a record for December to see that much moisture being funneled into the state of Kentucky. It's very rare. Remember, warm air holds lots of moisture. So you got warm air, you're going to have a lot of moisture at play, and that doesn't always happen as you head toward the first weekend of winter. You usually got colder air, and when the colder air, this is where the heavy snow is going to be. You see the heavy snow area? The PWatts are lower, but that's enough to produce a foot of snow in that area. So it doesn't take a lot to give a lot of snow, but that warm air really overwhelms us here in the eastern part of the country. Hope that made sense. Let me show you the rain totals. Yeah, not exactly good news there. This is all the way starting Thursday of this week, actually Friday of this week, all the way through. I know it says 9 o'clock Thursday p.m. That's actually next Thursday, the day after Christmas. This is actually going to go all the way up, though, until about Sunday night. It's about a 3-day total we're talking about here. 4-inch amounts, over 4-inch amounts, very close to the little area and off to the west. That has got to be watched carefully. I mentioned this on the news. You know, if this area picks up 3-4 inches of rain, especially in Ohio and Indiana, they've got a deeper snowpack there. You melt that snowpack, you're going to flood the Ohio River and the Big Sandy River in East Kentucky. You're going to flood the Ohio down here across areas of Louisville, and that will not happen for another week, but it will cause flooding problems. So we may have flash flooding while this is actually falling over the weekend, and then next week the rivers will then begin to react and start to rise. And that could slow the bridge construction down here in the Louisville area, too, when you get water's level that way. All right, so let's talk about that's the flooding issue we got to worry about, but the potential for damaging winds and severe weather. This map's a little blurry. This is off the European. This is the wind flow aloft. When you get into these brighter reds, you're talking about wind speeds just above our heads, above 70 miles per hour, and that can be transported to the ground. We mentioned this a lot in Weather Talk, that these can be transported to the ground, produce wind damage, and in some cases even tornadoes. The highest threat for that looks to be across this area here, southwest Kentucky into Tennessee. That's why I may have to move that severe zone a little further to the west based on what I'm seeing here on the wind fields lately. And then there's a sharp cutoff to the north and east once you get into Indiana. So it's not going to be a straight shot upward of wind. It's going to go up and then kind of curve outward a little bit. But this is the zone because there's a warm front right in through here, and then the cold front's down this way. And that's why it kind of angles like that. But you got to watch these wind fields aloft, and that track of the low will be important because you can have those strong winds above you, but unless you have the ability for thunderstorms and showers to tap into them, you will not get damaging winds to the surface. What we look for to measure that potential is called a CAPE, or in the instability. And we do see some CAPEs, nothing excessive, but they do show up here of about 200 to 400 across central Kentucky. And this is around sunrise, by the way, Sunday morning. So this is becoming more and more of a scenario that it doesn't really matter anymore if it's daylight or nighttime. This is such a dynamic system with so much moisture at play, and the wind fields are impressive, and there's warmth involved, that I really think that our chance for severe weather will be just as much as the same as it would be at 7 a.m. Sunday as it would be at 7 p.m. Sunday if this were a daytime, nighttime question. So I got to watch this here. This could be damaging wind, certainly, as it blasts on through. Now, tornado threat, not overly worried about that right now. I really think it's always there in these kind of scenarios, but the higher threat down in this area is going to be much more of an impact of the upper level low. Is really going to funnel in here and really produce some very powerful shear in that area. So that's area of concern for me. So the Storm Prediction Center, when they draw their map later tonight, I think they're going to finally issue a severe weather outlook. I think they'll issue one very similar to this for right now. I don't think they'll take it to Louisville. They could, but they may stop it closer to that higher wind field. All right. Now, I got 3 minutes left, so I got to hurry up through this. But these are called soundings that we look at from the Buffkett site. Again, it's hard to read. It's kind of blurry. But this is the ground level. This is where, let me mark it, sorry. This is where me and you are at the moment. This is taking you up to about 10,000 feet and then up to about 20,000 feet. And then you get to the area where airplanes fly in here, okay? So we're looking at the atmosphere sideways. The red line that you see on the screen is actually the temperature. The green line is moisture. Now, when you want to get precipitation to reach the ground, you have a very moist atmosphere. These red and blues have to touch each other all the way up in the most part. If you get a gap, like there's a gap right in here, there's some dry pocket. There's dry air aloft. There's another dry pocket. That reduces the intensity of the rainfall. In some cases, can shut it off completely. At the bottom level, you see the temperatures. This is 10 degrees Celsius. This is 0 degrees Celsius or the freezing line, or 32 degrees freezing in Fahrenheit. So this is the freezing line angled upward. You can see the majority of the rain that's going to fall here on Friday afternoon is to the right of that freezing line here. So that means it's all going to be rain coming down, and fairly moderate to maybe light rain, only because of those dry pockets we have aloft. Take into Saturday night, though. You see what happens here? These two lines tighten up big time as you go up in the atmosphere. They're nearly all the way together to the top of the atmosphere. That is a tremendous amount of flow of heavy rain coming straight down from the atmosphere. And we're well to the right of that 0 degree line. So this is all obviously very heavy rain. These are the winds, by the way, where you see the pink shading here. Very strong winds just above the surface. So very windy Saturday night into Sunday as well. All right, let me get you into Sunday. Sunday afternoon, look what happens. It's not even displaying the chance for rain. Usually it gives you a symbol here. There's no symbol because look at the dry air from top down that develops. So very dry air, only a little bit of moisture at the ground level, but probably other than drizzle, just not enough to give us anything precipitation-wise. But by Monday, we do try to add a little bit more moisture in across the lower levels of the atmosphere, very close to the ground. Very dry aloft, but very close to the ground. There is some moisture at play, and it is giving us a chance for some flurries as we head into Monday. Hope you got all that. Sorry, I know it's a really fast technical lesson, but that's just some of the data that we look at every single day to try to gauge how this is going to play out as we head into the upcoming weekend here in every storm system, in fact. So overall, heavy rain is the biggest issue. Severe weather is a secondary issue. The warmth is the most popular issue, I think, as we enter the weekend. I will say real quickly in my final 30 seconds, as we head toward New Year's, signs are there that we're going to see a much more of a colder pattern. Now, we said this about Christmas, and Christmas will be cold, by the way. It's just that we're going to yank out too much moisture out of the atmosphere, out of this system to really give us a big snow for Christmas. But I think we're going to get back on track and regroup here quite a bit as we head toward New Year's. So I'll have more on that coming up later down the road. Have a good rest of the evening. We'll see you tonight at 11.